Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. My name is Jan Roller, and I am president of the Board of Trustees of the club. The policies on end-of-life decisions in every state except Oregon, Washington, and Montana are merciless and irrational. Dying patients are abandoned to their agonies, and any talk of assistance in their dying occurs in hushed, confused tones. A decent society must do better. These are the words of today's speaker, Barbara Coombs Lee, president of Compassion and Choices, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving and expanding choices at the end of life. Here at the City Club, for the past 97 years, we have presented and discussed a full range of topics because we believe free speech and civil discourse on issues that affect our society improve and enhance how we as a people live and work. Today's topic, choice at the end of life, is a topic that many may not want to think, let alone talk about. But most people believe a chosen death is merciful and necessary and should be legal. This is what Compassion and Choices believes, and why it advocates that aid in dying should be one option among many for good end-of-life care. Ms. Coombs Lee practiced as a nurse and a physician's assistant for 25 years before beginning a career in law and health policy. Since then, she has devoted her professional life to individual choice and empowerment in healthcare. As a member of the Oregon Bar, she practiced as an attorney, was counsel to the Oregon State Senate, and was the chief petitioner for Oregon's Death with Dignity Act. She holds an adjunct position at the University of Washington School of Public Health and Preventive Medicine. Unlike most end-of-life organizations, Compassion and Choices is not a religious organization, nor does it promote one ethical or belief system. It supports, educates, and advocates to secure comprehensive and compassionate options at the end of life. Ms. Coombs Lee has been a presenter at programs across the country and internationally, and she has been interviewed on NBC News, CNN Crossfire, 60 Minutes, and the Today Show, and Bill Moyers on Death and Dying, among other places. And we are very happy to welcome her here today to the City Club podium. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Barbara Coombs Lee.
Well, thank you, Jan, for that very kind introduction. Thank you to the City Club for inviting me, and thank you to Susan Alcorn, a member who worked tirelessly to make this happen for a number of months. So I do want to express my gratitude at this opportunity, and I also want to congratulate you on extraordinary prescience in anticipating who might be a topical speaker. Because last March, when the planning for this talk began, who would have guessed that the outcome of our national debate about health care would turn on whether insurance reform equals government plots to kill granny and assemble death panels? Who knew a speaker prominently accused of death panel advocacy would be so timely? So, I'm in awe of your foresight, and I am grateful for your courage. As Jan said, I work for the organization Compassion and Choices. We're the result of a merger of two predecessor organizations, Compassion in Dying and End of Life Choices, which used to be named the Hemlock Society. As Jan said, our mission is twofold. It is to improve the care that people receive and expand the choices that they have at the end of life. We do this through direct consultation services to the terminally ill and their loved ones throughout the country. We do this through targeted legislation in states throughout the country, impact litigation, and public education. We're responsible for many public policy breakthroughs. We, Compassion and Choices, established the legal principle that undertreated pain at the end of life is a form of elder abuse. We passed the first state law ensuring that patients who inquire about their end-of-life options must receive comprehensive and accurate information from their doctors. We helped pass the Death with Dignity laws by statewide votes in Oregon and Washington, and we won the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that federal police do not have the authority to overturn state laws regulating aid in dying as legitimate state practice. Aid in dying is the term increasingly used by medical professionals to describe a physician writing a prescription for life-ending medication that a terminally ill, mentally competent person can take at a time and place of their own choosing if their suffering in their dying becomes unbearable. I want to draw this distinction between aid in dying and two other words. I want to draw the distinction between aid in dying and suicide. The Oregon law, the Washington law specifically say that the practice that they regulate is not suicide or assisted suicide or mercy killing. Suicide is something that people who are mentally ill contemplate. It is often done in extreme distress, in anger, in anguish, in alienation from family and loved ones. It is the product of disordered mental thinking. Aid in dying is not done in a lonely and distant way from family. It's not a result of disordered thinking. It's the result of a calm, judicious, rational decision-making process that dying patients undergo with their family members, knowing that death is inevitable and searching for the least worst way that might come. I also want to draw the distinction between aid in dying and euthanasia. In aid in dying, as you'll see when I describe all the safeguards and the procedural requirements, is structured so that the control and the choice resides with the patient from beginning to end. No one decides anything for anyone else with an aid in dying medical practice. This is different from euthanasia. Euthanasia puts the control in someone else. Someone else is deciding whether or not to administer life-ending medication. Someone else may even be administering that life-ending medication. Compassionate Choices does not support the legalization of euthanasia. We support the legalization of aid in dying. So with those distinctions made, let's turn to something quite apart from aid in dying. We are also the organization that, along with the AARP and the American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Medicine, we are the chief lobbying force behind that notorious Section 1233 of healthcare reform. This section is not about aid in dying or anything close. It simply establishes a Medicare reimbursement code for a doctor to consult about end-of-life options no more than once every 5 years. And yet, as I'm sure you've known, the outlandish portrayal of this provision is that government bureaucrats will visit elders in their own homes at least once every 5 years to coerce a decision for an early demise. Well, let me tell you a story to demonstrate how badly we need this very modest physician reimbursement provision. It's a story of Margaret Furlong, a client of Compassionate Choices. She came from Southampton, England. She served as the town's mayoress. She raised her family in California, and her husband of 50 years died there. Her son Patrick and his wife lived close by. They helped her live independently as she became more infirm. Crippling arthritis and congestive heart failure were the diseases that took their toll. At age 81, Margaret decided to move into a care center, and she signed forms refusing resuscitation and extraordinary life-sustaining measures if she suffered a medical crisis.